So, uh, gonna leave my camera off for a bit at least. Hope that's not a problem. Um, I realize this channel is, pretty much political at this point in time, but, I'd like to move a bit away from that. Hopefully that won't alienate too many, people that, watch this channel and those who've subbed. Um, how's it going there? Lariana? Hope I didn't butcher your name there. Since most people don't seem to be interested in anything of a political, basis, hello everyone. Good to see you. Please feel free to leave a like. Hello, James FN. But yeah, uh, as I was saying, most people don't really seem to care. Appreciate the like. Whether or not I discuss, I don't know what you mean by job. Pass. What games do I play? Well, um, in terms of systems, I own a PlayStation 5, a Switch, and a Steam Deck. I do not play either Fortnite nor Roblox. Um, anyway, since most people um don't seem to be here for political conversations, I'm thinking it would not hurt my viewership at all if I was to talk about things that are not related to current events. I don't know if anyone here is a One Piece fan. Uh, it's kind of fallen off a bit for me in recent years. But I used to be a huge fan of the series. Uh, I still follow it. I still look it up from time to time to see what's happening. Uh, but I don't read it on a consistent basis anymore. Um, Actually, now that I think about it, I'm not sure if I should even go into specifics because it might be a spoiler. And I don't know who may or may not be watching this. So perhaps talking about One Piece would not be the best uh, idea for a topic. Um, I had also been into Naruto at one point. I got all the way to the final arc and finished, and then never bothered with Boruto. Uh, and I also liked Bleach, which also kind of fell off for me. Um, Again, I kind of hesitate to go into specifics because I'm not sure who may be watching that's Uh, a a car for an edit. What do you mean, car? I'm muted. My thoughts on crypto? I consider it to be a scam. No. I'm just not sure what you meant by name a car for an edit. Uh, if you could elaborate on that, I can better answer your question. Um, but yeah, I think crypto is a huge scam. Namely because those who promote it, uh, are huge scammers, and those that control the House and the Senate are conmen. And that's just what they are. They're crooks. They're not there for the purpose of bettering the lives of the citizenry. No matter what they tell you, they just aren't. That's fact. Um, Now, while this may sound a bit biased, I'd be less iffy on it if this was being passed by a Democrat controlled House. Because it would tell me there's at least some good in crypto. But and I'm not trying to say that a new, shall we say, form of currency would be a bad thing. Quite the opposite. If you could get to work on implementing a brand new currency, you might be able to tackle long-term inflation related problems. But I'm not an economist, and I don't know how these things would work, so I could be dead wrong on that. Um, Name a car and you'll edit it. For what purpose? Um, Again, would just like some elaborating on. Would just like you to elaborate a bit more on that. What else? Okay, what kind of entertainment? That does not sound fun, Vincent DeRosa. Son, hi, how are you? Um, uh, Honestly, while I can't say that I dislike Michael Jackson musically, and I definitely don't have any problems with him as a person. Um, his name was unfortunately dragged through the mud just for being a bit different. I understand why people believe the claims that were made about him, but it was just a little nonsense. Uh, um, this music's alright. I was never really a fan. Didn't really do much for me. But I'm not really a big listener of pop. So there's that. Uh, and I'm also not that this is the same genre, but I'm also not really that big of a fan of rap. Although one of my favorite artists is from that genre. So, all right. Do you know? I don't remember the year of this car. It's called the Prowler. It's purple. Well, that's amazing. Um, Learning his songs on piano. And yeah, I know he didn't rap. I will say, absolutely one of the best singers to have ever lived. Um, you know, the man, his music is not loved for no reason. Um, I may not have been a fan of it for the most part, but uh, no doubt he was one of the most talented artists ever. Um, I don't think that's disputable. And yeah, it was dragged to hell and back, which is a shame because, like, yeah, there are things he probably shouldn't have done. That, you know, what I mean by that is there are things he probably shouldn't have done that only served to hurt his image, but he did not do anything, shall we say, wrong. And I hesitate to say that because I could see people coming back at me and saying, "Oh, you're absolutely wrong. He did all sorts of horrible things." And yeah, if you probably wouldn't have seen this, and I'm not sure where you could find it, but there was an interview. It was actually a series, like documentary style, and I forget who it was that interviewed him, but well, thank you. I take it that means you're heading off. Um, but anyway, as I was saying, um, he had done a documentary styles series that went on for, I think it was maybe 4 weeks. And he went into his experiences as a kid, the abuse that he suffered. Uh, I mean, just you could just never know what somebody goes through, and I think that when we look at those that are successful and rich, we assume that, well, they have it better than we do, and to an extent they do, but not uh not 100%. Like, they still deal with inner demons. No, I'm talking about Michael Jackson. Jackson, not Martin Bashir. Talking about how he had done a documentary style series that I believe went on for a month, and he yeah, he went through a lot as a kid. To be honest, after hearing what happened to him, I'm surprised that he chose to stick with music for his career, because out of his siblings, um, he got it the worst, and you could tell how it really messed him up. So it's very interesting to me that after the Jackson Five were no longer a thing, decided to stick with music professionally. You'd think that that would make him never want to touch it again, because of how painful that experience was. Um, Hold on a second. Yes, they did. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by them. His father definitely did. Uh, his father definitely did. I don't know a thing about what his relationship was with his siblings. Um, and the only other member of his family that was a success musically would be Janet Jackson. I mean, she wasn't as famous and successful as him, but she was her success rate was definitely closer. Um, but I couldn't tell you anything about what their relationship was like. Uh, I get the feeling that he was, at least to some extent, estranged from them, which is just terrible. Uh, but again, I wouldn't know. Although it seemed like they were at least a somewhat close family. And then yeah, there was the whole thing with him and his uh, young child, and I don't know what the gender was, but I think it was his son holding him over the balcony, which was definitely something to not to be critical of, to say the least, because that's you're putting your own kid's life at risk, or um if you want to, the man Dusk, also, based on uh your image, it seems you're a One Piece fan, and I was going to get into a little bit of a One Piece chat, but I was not sure about how much I could say, for the sake of spoilers. Because I don't want this to be about politics. And as I was saying, in most of my streams, people don't seem super keen on me talking about politics, so I think I might uh, be fine with getting away from politics and talking about anime and just general things that I like, and it probably won't impact my viewership. Um, yes, no doubt in my mind that he was at least, you know, a troubled but decent man. Um, and I know people would say, well, it's not always that simple, but when I see somebody show who they truly are on the outside, and you can just see their emotions, you know, yeah, definitely not, definitely just a man who had it really rough. Um, and I know people might probably, might criticize him for never growing up and this, that, and the other, but that's the effect that trauma has on you. Emotional trauma stunts your growth. It really does. Um, it's, you know, for better and for worse. Uh, it's I've kind of experienced that myself. I'm 36 years old, but to some extent, mentally, I'm a kid. Well, you're, I guess welcome for that. Oh, well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I've had people tell me that I don't seem like I'm 30, which is great to hear. Very good to hear that. All right, you take care of your dogs. Uh, Man, the piano is an instrument that I have had interest in learning, but I mean, I can't afford a piano, and well, that's pretty much all there is to it. I can't afford a piano. I've got other things to pay for. Although I am a singer, uh, and I have tried to dabble in writing my own lyrics to turn into songs. But you know, I just never ended up sticking with it. At one point, I actually knew someone who wanted to uh, basically he wanted to form a two-man band and suggested that we go to bars and try and get gigs. Uh, which to me sounded like a fantastic idea because I'm a man of multiple dreams, shall we say. I'm an aspiring author. I've always wanted to write stories, uh, to be made into books, and I've also at the same time always wanted to be a music artist. Um, and now through YouTube, I'm hoping to kind of be an entertainer of sorts. Welcome back, Maine. Yeah. Luckily, I can't say that I have financial struggles. I'm blessed to have to be living in a house that's. Uh, I mean, it's my mom's, but it counts as mine. Uh, Pastor Charlie. I don't know about that. Um, maybe in the future, uh, you can be one. But yeah, as I said, lucky to live in a home that belongs to belongs to my mother, but it's our house. Um, I don't have to worry about being homeless. Luckily, uh, sadly, that's not the case for everyone. Um, you know, not trying to necessarily get on my high horse here, but I am somebody who, you know, always felt that if I could reach a point in which I'm successful, I would want to help out those who can't help themselves. But I'm not in a position to be able to do that. Well, my mother and I, we don't have the best relationship. It's not awful, but it's strained at times. Though nowhere near as strained as other relationships. Won't talk about my father, but I did have two stepfathers who were my equally my real father. I basically saw them as two sides of the same coin, even though I was much closer to one than the other. Um, yeah, my grandfather, in terms of blood relation, was the one that I saw as a real father. So that would be my mom's father. Um, we actually lived with with them for years as I was growing up. Uh, so that was really cool. Uh, yeah, sorry about that, Pastor. I just don't know you. This is true. This is definitely true. Very wise words. You talking about playing the piano makes me wish I had the power to teleport into the room with you and start jamming together. I may do that. I may do that. You may notice I have two shorts that are the beginnings of a song that I just made up. I will get back to that and finish it. Um, one of well, the first short for that song got over 1,000 views. So yeah. Anyway, uh, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I thought about doing a Twitch stream today. I said that I was gonna start doing Twitch and link that up to my YouTube channel, and you know, try and grow both simultaneously. Thank you so much for your sub, Hassan. I hope I pronounced that correctly, by the way. I don't dare to try and say your last name because again, I do not want to butcher it. I'm your typical American who does not know any other language other than English. Um, although I wish I knew other languages. Maybe not a lot, but Japanese was always a language I wanted to learn. German. Wait. Yeah, Japanese is the language. That's right. German would be another one. And Italian would be a third. Um, if I could learn more languages, those would be the three. And probably Spanish, but I mean, trying to learn four languages, that's is difficult for anybody, I feel. Uh, so yeah, definitely gonna turn this into something more chill going forward. Because politics are draining, especially nowadays. It's nothing but just awfulness. Alrighty, Hassan. You have a good night as well. And a much joyous time playing the piano. Uh, are you still here, the main Dusk? Um, I can get into that One Piece chat now if you'd like to hear my thoughts. I don't know where you are at in the story. I would love to have a kind of rant on it, but I don't know. Depends on what people would want to hear. Uh, but let's just say, all right, this is what I can say. I was a huge fan of the series up until Wano. Now, I, unlike so many other people I'd spoken with and heard the opinions of, was a huge defender of Fishman Island. Um, loved Dressrosa, although granted it's mostly because of Doflamingo. Really liked Whole Cake Island. And because of those arcs, I believed that the second half of the story had the potential to be as good, if not better, than the first part of the story. The stakes were much higher. The Yonko seemed like such a. They weren't just a threat that was focused on one place. They encompassed the entire world. Unfortunately, we never really got to see exactly how feared they were. If I had to give One Piece a huge bit of criticism, it would be that to me, the Yonko Oda really dropped the ball on them in terms of being a global threat. They're powerful fighters, that's great. They have territories, but beyond that, there just wasn't much going for them. You know, when you look at Crocodile, you look at Buggy, and you look at the part one villains. They weren't just capable combatants. I mean, okay, less so with Buggy, but in the case of Kuro, in the case of Arlong, in the case of Crocodile, even in the case of Don Krieg, they had more going for them than just being capable fighters. They were great tacticians. They had plans. And what made them dangerous wasn't necessarily the fact that they could fight, it was their intellect, especially with Crocodile. Um, and I'd say that's even the case with CP9. Uh, you know, they're assassins, but their plan was very well thought out. Um, wow, that's an interesting question. I'm gonna say one. Uh, and that's coming from somebody who's not really a fan of Stranger Things. I didn't really fall in love with it like most people have. Uh, this is gonna sound awful, but I don't really care for series that follow kids. Um, Although that being said, one of the two characters that I really do like in that series is a kid, and that's 11. But beyond her, really didn't care for the main cast. My favorite character is I can never remember his name. All I remember is that he's the sheriff. He was the reason why I watched it. Him and 11, and that was it. Uh, I know it wasn't supposed to be a horror series, but the way it was kind of advertised and the way in which its theme sounded made me feel like this should have been like a callback to Stephen King. But then it had way too much silliness in it, and it just kind of ruined the more serious tone it had at times. Which when it's serious, I think it's really good. But it's just way too goofy. Almost becomes somewhat of a parody later on, which is where it really fell off for me. Um, but yeah, getting back to One Piece. So yeah, that's more or less my thoughts. What the Yonko were severely lacking in is being more than just strong fighters. Um, you know, there wasn't really a need in the first part of the series for there to be a focus on the world at large because they were going from place to place and they were meeting new people and the crew was gaining more members. But in my honest opinion, the second half is where it should have focused on the world at large. Where it should have dealt with why the hey there, Cedar, how's it going? Good to see you. Yeah, why why the Yonko were supposed to be so threatening, and all they ended up being is just strong fighters. We could have had some great pirate antics. We could have, in all honesty, I really wish that One Piece pirates were actual pirates and not just a name only. Because we don't get to see them acquire these territories, these four emperors. We don't get to see them, you know, plan things. They're not depicted as tacticians. They're not really intelligent. I mean, honestly, Kaido and Big Mom are total morons. Which, when you compare it to Part 1, as I said, pretty much all of the Part 1 villains are calculating and intellectual. Even Buggy is pretty smart. I mean, he came pretty close to killing Luffy just through planning. Um, and, you know, and then I mean, at least we have Doflamingo. Doflamingo was very intelligent. He planned things out pretty well, which is why, for me, he's the best villain in the series because he gives you the best of both worlds. He's, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful to Crocodile fans, but he's kind of a better Crocodile. He's much more threatening than Crocodile. He's more devious. Incredible backstory. You know, and I know that people like Crocodile, but for me, I like a villain that's a little bit more unhinged. It sells the villainy better than, you know, say a composed Bond villain, which is more or less what Crocodile is. But with Doflamingo, he's just a psychopath. Um, and he was really threatening. But yeah. We don't get intelligent villains anymore. We don't get to see their plans play out. We don't get to see their plans in motion. I don't know why. You'd think that these four pirate emperors would have a lot going on in those noggins of theirs, but I guess not. What else could I talk about? Oh, this is gonna sound awful, and I do not want this to come across the wrong way. I think Will should have died either in season 1 of Stranger Things or 2. It always bugged me how the only ones to die were teens and adults. This is supposed to be a more mature, somewhat graphic series where the likelihood of somebody surviving is less than that of another series. The fact that they never had the guts to kill off one of the mains, outside of it potentially being a teenager or an adult, just always bugged me. Because it's like you were never expected to care about anybody else. You always knew that, oh, the kids are going to be fine. Like nothing's ever going to hurt them. And it just it kind of hurt. It kind of killed it for me. Like not enough tension. Not enough. What's the word I'm searching for? Um, you don't feel like you're surviving something. You feel like everything is just going to be a-okay. Certain characters are going to die, but your main crew, they're going to be all right. I said a car. It's called the Prowler. Okay. So yeah, Will should have died. What else? What else can we talk about? Uh, what else can we talk about? I'm actually not uh sure what to talk about. I can't think of anything. Um, I kind of just bashed Stranger Things. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna flip out on me now because it's a series that's precious to a lot of people. uh, and I'm one of the very few who thinks it's at best just all right. Uh, but then again, when it comes to Netflix series, there really aren't any that I like a lot in terms of their original stuff, meaning something that's not an adaptation of something that already exists. Like, I loved the first season of Altered Carbon, but didn't bother with season two. And that's a book adaptation. I loved season one of Avatar: Last Airbender, but again, that's an adaptation of an animated series that came out many years ago on Nickelodeon. Uh, I liked the Yu Yu Hakusho live action series. Could have been better, but I liked it well enough. That's unfortunately not getting a season two, which is a real bummer for me. Uh, Avatar is getting a second season. I think at least two more have been ordered for that. Um, I really liked Daredevil. I really liked. Thank you, Jessica. I really liked Luke Cage, Jessica Jones season one. Uh, didn't really care for Iron Fist, and then I liked Punisher. Uh, but once again, none of those are original programs for Netflix. Like they are, but they're adaptations, and now they're not even on Netflix anymore. Uh, I did watch 2 or 3 seasons of Cobra Kai, but that kind of fell off for me because later on, it just felt like a generic soap opera with a lot of needless teen drama. And some of the characters, to me, their decision making didn't make any sense. Um, I also didn't like the fact that it was pretty much just Johnny and Danny constantly butting heads for like how many seasons, and Danny trying to claim that he's better, but he's acting like a bully too. It's like, really? Miyagi taught you all that and you pretty much cast it aside. Uh, so what was the point of it all? You just became a entitled jerk. Uh, I mean the action is great, but beyond that, I can't really think of anything else from Netflix that I've seen in terms of series. Uh, yes, good to see you back. You kind of missed my One Piece tangent, but uh, I'd be willing to uh bring it back if you would like. Um, Again, I know that people have lives and stuff they need to do. They can't be sitting here for God only knows, uh, how long. Uh, but yeah, as I was saying, as I had said previously, since you weren't here, uh, huge defender of Fishman Island. Uh, really like Dressrosa. Really like Whole Cake Island. But that's when the series started to fall off for me in Wano. Because, as I mentioned, part one wasn't just about fighting the big bads in every arc. They had a plan, they had intelligence. It wasn't all just punch your way through everything. Every single villain in part one was sufficiently intelligent. And when you look at the Yonko, these big bads that are seemingly over everything, like 4 dark clouds, and 2 of them are pretty much total morons, it kind of hurts the credibility of them being so dangerous and, an all-powerful force. When you look at the fact that, okay, yeah, maybe Whitebeard wasn't a Kuro or Crocodile type, but he was still pretty intelligent. He was still pretty tactical. But then you look at Kaido and Big Mom, and they're like 2 big oafs. And Kaido's basically just a caveman. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, Luffy versus Kaido is one of the best fights in the series, and I love a good fight. Absolutely, but the Yonko were hyped up for so much, and then when we finally get them, all they are is just major fights. It's like all that build up was for nothing. Yeah, exactly. And both lose in Wano. Like, no. What you should have done is had them lose, maybe the Marines show up to, potentially try and take Big Mom and Kaido down. Or have it be that the Marines show up as they're still fighting the two of them. They can't beat either Big Mom or Kaido. This is where an admiral shows up with an entire fleet, or maybe two admirals. Kaido and Big Mom escape, saving Luffy's, penultimate fight with Kaido for that snowy island that was apparently Kaido's favorite. And then you save Big Mom for Elbaf. And you let her be the villain of Elbaf. A land that she had a huge connection with. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have thought before getting into all that. But yeah. Huge missed opportunity. And now we're at a point now where it's like, oh, the Yonko don't even matter anymore. Like, really? And I also went into how it bugs me even more nowadays than it ever did before. About how they aren't really pirates, any of them. And I don't know. Maybe it's stupid for me to have wanted this at one point, or maybe looking back, this is just how I feel. But we should have had naval battles, and the Yonko should have been more than just really powerful, physically speaking, and devil fruit wise. So these four massive clouds ended up not being as dark as we thought they would be. It's really disappointing. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, it'll probably never happen, but I would much rather see Roger's journey because it's implied that they did steal, they did do actual pirate stuff. Uh, like, you know, maybe ship battles. They didn't have devil fruits, which means the fights would be more straightforward. It'd be more like your classic, you know, uh, pirate swashbuckling fights. Yeah, you'd have hockey in there, so you'd have the superhuman stuff. But honestly, like, I could just imagine the first part of that series mostly just being your, straightforward sword fights and gunfights. Uh, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say I wish that Luffy didn't have a devil fruit, but I don't know. Uh, Maybe you could have given him a sword, and yeah, I know people would say, well, Ichigo had a sword, but no, Luffy wouldn't. If Luffy had a sword and he could use a sword effectively as a weapon, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be used in the same way as Ichigo uses his. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Actually, didn't we technically see a kid use hockey? I feel like it's been used at least subconsciously, but I could be mistaken. Uh, Yeah. Oh, speaking of hockey, I know there's people that criticize the existence of hockey and say, oh, they wish it was just devil fruits. And I understand that opinion, but my take on that is, conceptually speaking, I think hockey is actually a better, actually fits One Piece better thematically than Devil Fruits do. Because what is hockey? It's ambition, or it's born from ambition. And every major player has a dream, and that's ambition. And pirates are ambitious. Certain Marines are ambitious. So, if you imagine One Piece without devil fruits at all and just having hockey, I mean, the fighting system would be a lot less complicated. It'd be more simple, but that might be to its benefit. Um, and just add more to it. Um, and even that whole, oh well, they have devil fruits because of the whole tropical theme, but they don't go to tropical islands to get devil fruits. We don't see the characters actually get those devil fruits, and that's another thing. The devil fruits don't really matter anymore. It's just the powers they give you. If we saw each character that has one actually get that fruit as part of their backstory, and there was some kind of trial that led to them acquiring that fruit, um, that's true. Not many people have it, but I mean, things like Don Krieg's suit exist, and Koro's, you know, gloves, bladed gloves, and his, superhuman speed exist. So, to me, hockey makes perfect sense for the new world because that's where all the big players are. Um, so yeah, the devil fruits are kind of a moot point because there are no trials. There's no real story behind them getting those powers. And I know you don't necessarily need that, but I think that's what people like a lot about. Well, I would say Bleach, but we don't know the full story of how every character gets their Zanpakuto and why their Zanpakuto are the way they are. But yeah, in One Piece, it could have been like, imagine if every devil fruit was located in a temple of sorts, and so you get a backstory for those characters where they go through a what's the word? They go through a like a tomb, and they find a fruit. They find the fruit, they have to go through it, and they actually have to prove that they're worthy of that fruit. That's another thing that bugs me. People keep talking about, oh, this character's so strong, they have this devil fruit. And it's like, but the power's not earned. At least with hockey, it's earned. Hockey is born from your ambitions, it's born from your desire. A devil fruit you just bite into you and you gain power from it. Um, you didn't really earn that. If devil fruits were about you having to accomplish some kind of, you had to finish some kind of test, and then the devil fruit is empowered after that test, and then you bite into it and you gain that as a reward after having gone through some trials. It would have been like, yeah, you earned this fruit. You earned this power. It's not just something a regular old Joe could get their hands on. Um, No, I haven't. I have not seen those videos at all. Ooh, sorry for yawning. Jeez. Um, I actually had an idea for a devil fruit. Uh, I think I called it the tail. No, me, not tail like an animal, but tail is in like a story. And or no, I think it was narrate. The way it would work is that you would tell the story out loud, or you would tell. All right. I think the example I gave is that when using it in a fight, the person would recite like a poem they made up, or they might. I'm trying to remember what the example was that I gave, but more or less, in a manner of speaking, what you say becomes real. Now, one of the major downsides to this fruit is that since your words are what make things happen or what allow the power to work, if you're interrupted, then the effect won't go off. It's kind of akin to like Gandalf casting a spell, and it's like a long incantation that's pretty much a sentence. But this would be like okay, so imagine our character is going into a fight and says, "The mighty warrior." Okay, go take care of your dogs. The mighty warrior whose body was as sturdy as a mountain punched through the gates of destiny and smashed all denizens of evil. And upon saying that, the person will gain superhuman strength, an incredibly a body that's as sturdy as a mountain, um, and that's how the power would work. And I was even thinking that I know this wouldn't make sense for a devil fruit because we've never seen a devil fruit power summon an object through which that power can also be used. But I was also thinking that this character would okay, so I'll say again what I had already said. Um, so imagine this character is going into a fight and says this: um, the warrior, whose body is as sturdy as a mountain, used the strength from given to him by God to smash through the impenetrable gate to heaven. And after having said that, he would gain an insane amount of physical strength and defense and basically become like Hercules. Um, and it could even transform you in a way, depending on what you said. Um, but I noticed there was a really serious problem with this because not only do you have to say whatever it is without being interrupted, but you also need to be heard. Because if no one's hearing a story being told, they can't imagine it. So it's like, how do you make it less of a glass cannon, I guess? How do you make it so that those effects... Well, no, because you can be interrupted while doing it. I mean, in One Piece, you're not just going to be able to say an entire sentence without getting punched in the face. There's nothing to stop that from happening. So And it would also be limited to you can only use one ability at a time. So you can only grant yourself one power at a time. The moment that you try to tell another tale, the one that you had already told is gone. It goes away. But it's like how to make it so that you can use that power without less of a drawback. Um okay. All right. Well, if you're not gonna be here, not that I have to end this anytime soon, but you said talk to you later, so it looks like you may have to head off, which is perfectly fine, obviously. Ooh, 6 likes. Thank you to everyone who just gave a like. Um, but I was actually considering ending it soonish, which I would like to do. So, um, but I can hang around for 10 more minutes. I'm just not sure what I would be saying for those 10 minutes because it looks like there's pretty much nobody here. Uh, ooh, there goes the yawning again. Mm. Jeez. I think so as not to annoy people with my yawns. Uh, that I'm probably gonna end the stream now. Uh, I would wait for the main Dukes to return. But I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be able to last. Because I'll probably be hitting the. I'll probably be going to sleep soon. Um, but I can maybe give it 10 more minutes. Um, oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Sorry, everybody, for the yawning once again. Uh, um, not really sure what else to say. Um, what could I talk about? Alright. Hey, Cedar. Nice to see you back. How's it going? Ah, nice. You're back. Not much. I don't know what WSP means. I assume that means what's up? Oh, not a problem. Good night. Thank you for stopping by. Hope to see you again in the next one. I don't know if anyone's gonna respond to that, Cedar, but I'm doing alright. Just hanging in. Slowly wearing down. uh... I should be. Alright. Not, good news. Although I anticipated that would happen. I was really hoping something would get in the way of it going through. But it looks like things are about to get much worse than they already are. Thanks to that stupid bill. Nothing beautiful about that. That's for sure. How many people are now going to lose their lives? Starve. No longer be able to afford the rent if they have an apartment. It's all going to go to those those incredibly rich people. And those who don't rely on benefits are going to be taxed heavily. More so than they've probably ever been. And from what I understand, even if it could be reversed, once it goes into effect, it's going to stay in effect for, I think, at least 10 years. So, yeah, good job. Good job. So, according to Facebook, this person I follow, the vice president is having a dinner in Massachusetts. And people can pay to go to it. Yeah. I wonder how many people are actually gonna do that, because at the rate we're going, the only people that are gonna have money in this country are the rich, and everybody else is just gonna be skating by, barely skating by. I don't know if anyone's listening at the moment, but if you have the means to do so, consider moving in with family. Because a lot of people are not going to be able to afford living expenses. They're not going to be able to afford. If you live in an apartment, you're not going to be able to afford that. If you have a mortgage, you're not going to be able to afford that. Unless you have a really good job that does pay a living wage. Yeah. You're going to want to start rooming with family. Because things are going to get really bad for people financially. And now he wants to charge people $100,000 to $250,000 for a Republican dinner. Yeah, sorry about that. I just had to. Yeah, sorry about that. I just had to get that off my chest. It just feels like there's nothing good that's ever gonna come from anything. And I hate to sound like a pessimist, but I just don't see. I just don't see. I don't see how it's possible to get through the other side. Let's just say. It's a real shame it couldn't have waited at least 10 or 20 more, or 20 years for this to happen, because then I'd be in my 50s. But that's the way it works. That's the way it goes. That is the way it goes, and there's nothing we can do about it. Absolutely nothing. Oh, how I wish I was wrong in feeling this way, but I'm afraid I'm probably just gonna wait for Cedar to get back. Provided I don't have to go. If I do, I'll end the stream, but if not, I'll hang around. Seven likes. Thank you so much. Honestly surprised that I've gotten that much given how little I've been saying for a bit now. Hey, welcome back. Hey, welcome back. Cedar, not. I realize this might be a bit personal, but where are you from? Just country, not, state or anything like that. Just curious. Alright. It's getting close to 11. I think I'm gonna end this off. Cause it's getting late. And I want to thank everyone for stopping by, chatting with me for a bit, subscribing if you have, and hope the same will be the case for anyone who may be watching this after the fact. Please consider giving a like, subscribe, and comment. And with that, I bid you all a good night. And to anyone who's not living in the US, a good day. Or good morning. Later.